if you've read through the book, you'll know that the first chapter is really about what I call get quote. And I'm not necessarily talking about giving people a quote immediately, but I am in a way. I kind of am, for a number of reasons. But if it's not actually a quote, it's like, well, it's a lead magnet that gives the people the things that they're really most interested in up front. So, kind of where we're talking here really in the journey is around the lead capture kind of part. That's where we are in the customer journey. So this is where, web traffic is going to be coming to. It might be a specific landing page where we're talking, but it wouldn't be, if you've got landing pages for specific lead magnets, obviously any traffic that you're driving would go to that landing page. You wouldn't then interrupt that flow with a kind of a get quote mechanism. But this is probably your main website. You see things on people's kind of main pages. So people that have found you and are looking around and that sort of traffic is kind of what I'm talking about here. Okay, my thinking on this is, well, if you just think about how the way kind of you shop, you look for things, you've got an idea, you need something, there might be a problem, or you're researching something. If it's business to business, you're researching something for business development, or there's a business problem, or if it's B2C and it's personal stuff, you kind of got an idea of what you're looking for, but you've not necessarily got a really specific idea of exactly what the solution is. Or it might be you do actually know exactly what you're looking for and you're just trying to source it. Okay, so that's the two sort of behaviors that people kind of have as they're wandering around. And if you think about it yourself, you get to a website and you think, is this it? Is, the first sort of question is, what is this? Is this the sort of thing that might solve my problem? And if the answer is yes, you click on the pricing button, don't you? I mean, yeah. I look at a lot of different softwares, and before I look at the features, I click on the pricing to understand the pricing, and it's just human nature. People want to know how much this is kind of going to cost. And they don't necessarily need to know exactly to the pound, shillings and pence how much something's going to kind of cost. But then you want to know scale of magnitude, and the reason they want to know scale of magnitude is, well, if I was thinking 50 and you tell me 20, I'll buy it now. If you tell me 1,000, then no, I'm not that. I wasn't thinking that, and I'm kind of out of here. So that's, but if you said 100, I was thinking 50, you said 100, I'm not, I've now got the right expectations set, and I'm kind of moving through. So kind of, should you tell them the price? If anybody of you have ever had a timeshare presentation from somebody when you've been walking down the beach in Spain or anything like that, and they give you a free use of the facilities if you'll come and hear the sales pitch. Yeah? Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah.
Yeah? So they never tell you the price, do they? They only tell you the price right at the end. And no matter how many times you ask, you can't get the price from them. Yep. And, one of the reasons I think that they do that is that they're scared of telling you the price. And they want to position it all. So they want to show you all the upside and the good stuff before they tell you the price. So they're trying to price, or they're trying to condition. And you can price anchor, and that is, another reason why you got to be careful telling people the price. So, it might be that you scare people off. That is true, or that you'd like to position the product first or anchor a price so that, most things cost 10,000 and this is only a 3,000. Therefore, this is you've anchored at 10,000, which is a great webinar kind of mechanism that we've talked about before, David. It's anchor the price something higher, come back. So that's true. That's there. The other reason people kind of don't like to give the price is that they say, well, it depends. I don't know what the price is. I can't give them a price. I can't give them an estimate. I would need to do a survey, or I'd need to do some kind of fact finding. And my response to that is, yeah, that's okay, but you can give them a price actually, because if you look at, if you looked at the average amount of money people pay for this accounting service and that package, you don't need to do a big fact find to say, well, the average price is about this. You can probably get some sort of price. The pros, of course, of giving them the price fairly early is a good early qualifier. If you tell them what the price is and they say, oh, it's far too much, okay, that's fine, because I'm not reducing the price.
Yeah.
So if that's far too much, then I don't want to spend too much time, effort, energy, especially if I've got a marketing follow-up program that includes a shock and awe piece or something like that, or I've got a sales team that are making outbound calls. If you're really not the right sort of price buyer for me, then why don't we both find out early, and that's fine. Also gives you the impression of being an honest broker. I actually dislike it when I can't find out the price of things. It makes me wonder what they're hiding. It really annoys me. So if I go somewhere and I can find out roughly the price, I gravitate towards then buying from those sorts of companies. Of course, you're going to trade, giving them this sort of estimate, this quote for the details, which was the whole point. So then we're going to do some follow-up. And also we get a chance to ask what I call the killer questions, which are the, if you have the answers to certain questions before you even talk to a prospect, you could be really, really well informed, and it would make your sales pitch much, much more effective when you do get to talk to the prospect. Okay, so what are the key questions you need to know, and ask them in the price estimate mechanism, maybe. So there's some cons. There are some cons, and there's a judgment. There's some cons and there's some pros, but really it is what the audience is hungry for. And if you just think about this as well, this is actually just what we would call a lead magnet. A button that you can click on that gives them a price, quote, estimate, idea is the button that they want to click on. And that's a lead magnet that we can then put into a follow-up sequence thereafter. Okay, so questions are really around, well, how could you generate that estimate? You're only really looking for the scale of magnitude. Is there an average range that you can provide them with? Some people, you ask for a price and they just send you the price list. Then you just get a PDF of the price list, or you go to a pricing page. Could you have a quick price calculator? So I can't tell you what the price is, but you can download this little calculator. You can run through it yourself, and maybe it's an ROI calculator as well, that positions things and they fill it in, and that the end result of that is not only do they know the price, but they've got some idea of, particularly if it's a B2B type sale, how much value they're going to make out of it, and what's the what's it reason if this is not a cost, it's an investment. Okay, if it's an investment, what's the ROI? Is the first response to it with that. Okay, could you either do that online or do that sort of thing in it with a little sheet that they can download and fill in. And there are plenty of sort of calculator technologies sort of available. So, pricing tables on websites, you could do pricing tables. You see that all the time, and annual and monthly payments, and you can switch between them. And you could use Google Forms. It's to capture some things, and then you take them to capture some details, and then you take them to a results page, which is the price. You can even click it up with little click-through paths. You can imagine pages. So if they click on a button on this page 1, if they click on button A, they go to 2A. If they click on B, they go to 2B, which differentiates them. So that's a fairly simplistic way of doing it. But no technology apart from websites, of course, required. You could do all that inside Keep, actually have different results and take them through a click path. Different landing pages, different forms can route in different way. We'll often use something called Jot Forms, which is a forms package which has conditional logic built in. So Google Forms, which is free, is a bit dumb. Jot Forms, which is paid for, I think it's about £16 or $16 a month. It's not expensive, but it's got conditional logic in it. So if you select answer A, actually question 2 changes, and it can even change in front of your very eyes. There's type forms, there's all sorts of forms packages that can do this. They're not expensive. We also use Thrive themes, which has got a little quiz builder in it, and you can also route to come to different results pages. Leads Hook is another one I use, which is very sophisticated lead gen quizzing tool, but that can be used, and you can put some logic in the back of it and some algorithms. It can do some sums. And then there is something that's quite cool called Calculoid, which is a little website that actually its whole point of being is to do calculators. And they sell a lot of calculators, I think, into the financial services industry, because there's, return on investment and mortgage calculators and those types of things that are really graphically very, very nicely done. And the subscription for those is not particularly expensive, and then you embed that on your website. So there's plenty of technology ranging from really, really simple to really quite sophisticated that can help you figure this out. And my kind of challenge to people is, well, you kind of got to figure it out at some point when you give them a quote. So can we not figure out roughly something early to capture the lead in the first place? Okay, let me just give you a little example of one. This is Brian Young. I did some work with Brian quite a few years ago now. You might have heard me tell this story before. He was spending about $30,000 Canadian on Google AdWords. He knew that on his website, the button that converted was the get estimate, get quote. I noticed yesterday he changed it to get estimate, but it was a get quote button. He tried all sorts of different buttons on his website. He knows that that's the one everybody wanted to click. So Brian was running about seven or eight teams of decorators in Toronto. So a reasonably big painter decorating business. So he absolutely knew that that's the button that people wanted to click. There it is. That's his website. I took this screenshot yesterday. It's get a free estimate button. It's still up there. You click on that and it comes here. And this is a multi-step page. So I didn't fill it in yesterday, as I didn't want to give Brian a kind of a false lead to screw up his stats. But that's the first page. And then the second page, he asks you, are you domestic or commercial? Because he actually only deals with domestic house decorations, residential. So if you click commercial, you would then be routed straight out. You say, well, I don't do that. So you need to find somebody out. Good to know. What's your budget? 3 to 5, 5 to 10. And then you notice there isn't a 0 to 3.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Yeah,
0 to 3, because it's at least $3,000, and you need to know that now. There is no 0 to 3. If you're looking at 0 to 3, then that's not going to work.
No.
Yeah.
How many rooms? What's your address? And also a very good question that Brian asked, which is, when do you want the project finished by? Not when do you want to start, but when do you want it finished by? So what Brian was getting, he was getting about 30% of people who were filling this in, and 60% and 65% or something of people that didn't fill it in. But 100% of people fill in the first form, so we have their name and email address. And then 30% of people who fill in the second form, he could actually give a very good price range, and he also knows the lead times. And then what Brian needs to do after that is he needs to go and actually go to their house and have an appointment. And almost everybody that filled in this form, he could then get to go to the house, have an appointment, and his close rate was very, very good within that. So the appointment link after it gives them the price range. There's a, would you like to book an appointment? Gave them the link there. And then, of course, he had a little Infusionsoft follow-up sequence. So 100% of the people that filled in the first form would get a follow-up email unless they filled in the second form. And the follow-up emails were a whole series. So these are the people that didn't fill in the second form. That was basically saying, hey, I noticed you haven't filled in the second form. If you're looking for people, make sure that whoever you hire has got the appropriate insurance. And then the next email was, whoever you hire, make sure the person has got the appropriate equipment. And then why don't you check them out? The next email is, why don't you check them out on the Toronto City and Guilds list of painter decorators? And here's a link to it. So what he was doing was, if you didn't fill in that second form, he was just following up, and he was planting in your mind reasons why you might just want to check these people out. And of course, there was a link that would take the people back to the second form, and he'd go from there. But the reality was, he was getting enough traffic. His problem wasn't the people clicking the first form. He had more people clicking the first form than he could deal with. It was just they were all a bit unqualified. But now he's changed the dynamic around, and he was getting enough business from people who filled in the second form to and closing it all. So he was really only working with well-qualified, well-educated people who wanted to buy his painter decorating service. And it made a huge difference to his business. So kind of my challenge to you for the first part of this kind of session is, okay, so what can you do? What do you do in your business? Is there what's the equivalent for your businesses of the the get estimate or get quote button? What can you do?